Hello and welcome to the Central Television. I am Lekon Onobanjo, and here are stories making headlines beyond the continent. Let's begin with U.S. election, where Kamala Harris has called for a new generation of leadership during a rally in Las Vegas, where she criticized Donald Trump for his recent remarks about women. With just days before a crucial election, Harris has pressed her case to supporters, emphasizing the need for change. The rally featured pop superstar Jennifer Lopez, who joined Harris to galvanize voters. The event highlights the importance of women's rights in the upcoming election as Harris seeks to energize her base and counter Trump's influence. Supporters have responded enthusiastically, reflecting the heightened stakes of this election cycle.
I believe in the power of women. Ladies, where are my ladies at? Let me hear you. Yes. You know, I believe that women have the power to make the difference in this election.
He said that he will do what he wants, now I'm about to quote, whether the women like it or not. This is the same person who said that women should be punished for their choices. He simply, well, I hear you, but you know what? You know what? The courts are gonna handle that. The courts will handle that. We'll handle November. How about that? This is not someone who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is increasingly unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and is out for unchecked power. It is time for a new generation of leadership in America. And I am ready to offer that leadership as the next president of the United States.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has faced criticism for violent rhetoric against a prominent Kamala Harris supporter during dueling rallies in Wisconsin just 4 days before the crucial election day. More than 66 million Americans have cast early ballots ahead of Tuesday, with polls showing Trump and Harris in a dead heat. Both candidates campaigned in Milwaukee, with Trump rallying at the same venue where he accepted the Republican nomination after narrowly escaping an assassination attempt. He has also met with Arab Americans in Michigan to address community anger over U.S. support for Israel's war in Gaza. Meanwhile, Harris has joined forces with rapper Cardi B, energizing her campaign. Wisconsin remains a key battleground in the presidential race.
I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person, and I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people.
And now to the Middle East, where the World Health Organization has raised serious concern over Israeli attacks hitting healthcare workers and facilities in Lebanon in its war against Hezbollah. According to WHO spokeswoman Margaret Harris, there have been 102 deaths, 83 injured in such attacks. She said this while speaking at a media briefing in Geneva, adding that there have been 55 confirmed attacks. She added that health workers are already overworked and displaced as hospitals are overwhelmed by casualties. So the continuous loss of health workers is at the very time high when they're needed the most. Israel's military says that 37 soldiers have been killed in Lebanon since ground operations began on September 30. Let's also tell you that Israel has carried out at least 10 airstrikes in Beirut's southern suburbs targeting Hezbollah strongholds. The strikes come as ceasefire talks continue, with U.S. officials meeting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss a potential deal. The airstrikes have caused widespread destruction, with dozens of buildings leveled and fires breaking out. The violence has escalated in recent weeks, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Netanyahu has emphasized the need for a deal that guarantees Israel's long-term security. The proposed plan involves Hezbollah retreating from the border, Israeli troops withdrawing, and the Lebanese army taking control. Talks are ongoing, but the situation remains volatile. Meanwhile, 4 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli military operations in Tulkarem in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry confirmed 3 deaths occurred in Nur Shams camp following overnight shelling by Israeli forces. Rami Alyan, a local official, reported injuries and ongoing bulldozing operations in the camp. Israel's military confirmed operations in Nur Shams, citing a counter-terrorism efforts involving police and Shin Bet security agency. They reported targeting an armed terrorist cell during the raid. Additionally, a 4th Palestinian, Hossam Mallah, was killed in Tulkarem camp, with Israel identifying him as a Hamas member involved in planning immediate and imminent attacks.
كتيبة طول كرم شهيدها المجاهد بإذن الله عبد العزيز أبو السمن 11 رأس مقاتلين أبناء كتيبة طول كرم، والشهيد المجاهد بإذن الله أحمد عصام فحماوي أسد العبوات الناسفة، والشهيد بإذن الله معتصم أبو عيشة.
يعني في هذه اللحظات المؤسفة المؤلمة ونحن نودع شهدائنا أبنائنا أحبائنا، هذه اللحظات حقيقة يعني نستذكر وضع هذا المخيم الذي استهدفه الاحتلال بتدمير البنية التحتية فيه واعتقال أبنائه وتخريب ممنهج ومتعمد. اقتحموا الجيش، كان نايم صحيته طلع من الدار وانا طلعت من الدار. احنا بنطلع لنا دارنا كل مره الجيش بيجرفوا لنا اياها، صرنا نطلع. بعد شوي سمعت صوت قصف انه يقولوا لي احمد استشهد، قصفت الطياره اجت بظهر الهواء واستشهد. الحمد لله الحمد لله. هربوا تهريب اخوه من طريق الجبل لانه منعوا الاسعاف تيجي خالته، وتقريبا ساعتين قدر يوصل للمستشفى وماشي يتشاهد، ويحكي لي اخوه كان يتشاهد.
In the meantime, a bombing near a girls' school in western Pakistan killed 7 people, including 5 children, in an attack targeting police guarding polio vaccinators on Friday. According to Rahmat Ullah, a senior police officer, the bombing happened near a girls' school, hitting a police van, taking personnel for the protection of polio staff, resulting in the deaths, which included 5 children. Pakistan and neighboring Afghanistan are the only countries where polio remains endemic, and vaccination teams are frequently targeted by militants waging a campaign against security forces. Earlier this week, 2 police officers were protecting polio vaccinators conducting door-to-door campaigns in northwestern Pakistan were killed in an attack attributed to militants. A Russian student has been charged with treason in connection with Ukraine, with his trial set for November 14. According to a recent court announcement, 20-year-old Nikita Zuravel has previously been sentenced to 3.5 years for allegedly burning the Quran in Volgograd in May 2023. He has been accused of collaborating with Ukraine's security service, reportedly sending videos of military equipment. The trial is scheduled to be held behind closed doors in Volgograd, following a request from Chechnya's leader Ramzan Kadyrov. If convicted, Zuravel could face a sentence ranging from 12 years to life in prison. However, human rights group Memorial has stated that there is no evidence directly linking him to the Quran burning incident. Away from that, North Korea says it will stand by Russia until its victory in its war with Ukraine. This comes amid growing fears that the country will get involved in the conflict. North Korean Foreign Minister Cho Sun-hu made this statement after talks with her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow. She was in Moscow as the West says thousands of North Korean troops are in Russia and will be possibly used in Ukraine. The U.S. has said that 8,000 North Korean soldiers are training in Russia and could be deployed to fight in Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin signed a mutual assistance pact with North Korea's Kim Jong-un when he visited Pyongyang this summer.
인민공화국은 미국과 서방이 강권과 전횡을 끝장내고 새로운 국제 질서를 수립하기 위한 정의의 싸움에 영약돌쳐 나선 러시아 군대와 인민이 푸틴 대통령 동지의 현명한 용도 밑에 반드시 승리를 이룩하리라는 데 대해서 믿어 의심치 않으며 승리일 그날까지 언제나 러시아 동지들과 함께 있을 것이라는 것을 확언하는 바입니다.
Let's go on a short break. When we return, we'll tell you that flooding in Spain highlights urgent need for climate change or action. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying there. Let's talk about flooding in Spain. European officials are urging delegates at the UN Biodiversity Conference in Colombia to take action against climate change. The devastating flooding in Spain's Valencia region has highlighted the link between biodiversity loss and human-caused climate change. The conference comes at a critical time, with worsening droughts and flooding causing the loss of plant species like trees, which are essential for mitigating the effects of global warming. The envoy emphasized that this conference is an opportunity to take action and make a difference.
Exacerbated by climate change and by the high temperatures and the drought. But all of this is also because of the drought, again, then biodiversity has been lost. So it's an illustration of what is going wrong for the moment in the world, and that you might have seen on the television the devastating floods that have taken place in Spain, in Europe, and this is really a catastrophe of a very unforeseen ampleur. And I would like, a tragedy like this one is not just a Spanish one, it really affects all of us in Europe, and it's actually here. It's also important to see that such devastating impacts, these sort of flash floods, of course they're exacerbated by climate change and by the high temperatures and the drought. But all of this is also because of the drought, again, then biodiversity has been lost. So it's an illustration of what is going wrong for the moment in the world, and that we have at this COP a chance to really start implementing actions on biodiversity. Because if you act on biodiversity, we at least can buffer some of the climate impacts.
In the same development, rescuers have raised the death toll in Spain's worst floods in a generation to 205 as the government deployed more troops to aid in the search for survivors. The floods, which began on Tuesday, have devastated eastern Valencia, tossing vehicles, collapsing bridges and blanketing towns in mud. The hardest hit Valencia region has confirmed 202 fatalities, while officials in neighboring Castilla-La Mancha and Andalusia reported 3 additional deaths. Meanwhile, rescuers using drones and sniffer dogs continue the search for the missing. An additional 500 troops have joined the 1,200 on site, with some areas remain cut off without essential supplies, and the death toll is feared to rise as rain reached record levels. Meanwhile, a mountain rescue team from Spain's Civil Guard has found a body in Paiporta, located in the flood-hit Valencia region. The area has experienced Spain's worst flooding in a generation, resulting in over 200 deaths and many people said to still be missing. Meanwhile, the severe weather has devastated communities, prompting emergency responses and ongoing rescue efforts. Authorities continue to search for survivors and assess the damage in affected regions, while the full impact of the flooding remains unclear. Rescue operations are focused on locating missing individuals and providing aid to those displaced by the disaster, highlighting the urgent need for recovery efforts. Away from Spain, now as part of an outdoor roof collapsed at a train station in Novi, Serbia on Friday, killing at least 8 people. And this was according to the Interior Minister, Ivica Dasic. We added that rescuers were in contact with 2 people who were still trapped beneath the rubble. It described the situation as extremely challenging. Footage posted on social media showed several ambulances and fire engines at the scene. 2 excavators could also be seen digging through the pile of rubble. The station in Serbia's second largest city reopened in July after 3 years of renovation work. Construction work was still ongoing in parts of the station. And I'll tell you that the Interior Minister, Bruno Retailleau, said that France has reached a tipping point in its battle against drug-related violence following a shootout that severely wounded 1 teenager and injured 4 others. Police responded to gunfire outside a restaurant in Poitiers on Thursday night, where a fight erupted among hundreds of youths. A 15-year-old was found with a gunshot wound to the head and was hospitalized, while 2 others, aged 15 and 16, suffered serious injuries. Another 2 16-year-olds arrived at the hospital with minor wounds. Retailleau emphasized the urgent need for action, warning of the potential Mexicanization of the country amid rising tensions between rival gangs. Moldova's presidential candidate Alexandra Stoianoglu has gained praise from supporters for his calm demeanor and distance from the European Union, while critics have labeled him a Trojan horse for Russia. The former prosecutor is challenging current President Maia Sandu in this Sunday's runoff election. Sandu, who dismissed Stoyanoglu last year, now faces his bid for the nation's highest office on the platform of justice for all. Stoyanoglu has promised to bring an end to what he calls 4 more years of abuse if he wins the vote in Moldova, a country on the border with Ukraine. Supported by the pro-Russian Socialist Party, Stoyanoglu surprised many by securing 26% of the vote in the first round, while Sandu led with 42%. Despite Sandu's claims that Stoyanoglu is Russia's man, he has dismissed those accusations, calling instead for a balanced foreign policy.
3 ноемвря, poporul Moldovei va lua decizia finală. În ce direcție va merge țara mai departe? Își va continua parcursul dominat de isterii, promisiuni goale și căutări interminabile de dușmani ai poporului, sau va alege calea consolidării tuturor forțelor politice în numele Republicii Moldova. Visez nu doar pentru a vă cere votul, ci pentru a ne uni pentru dreptate. Dreptatea pe care o merită Republica Moldova și cetățenii săi. Vă rog să fiți alături de mine și pe 3 noiembrie și apoi 4 ani înainte.
Still in the region, Moldova's pro-European Union leader Maia Sandu has entered a challenging race in the presidential election set for this Sunday, just 2 weeks after narrowly securing a referendum for EU membership. Sandu, a former World Bank economist, has acknowledged that she is facing a difficult fight in the second round after obtaining 42.5% of the votes in the first round. Her rival, Alexander Stoyanoglu, has unexpectedly gained 25.95% of the votes and is backed by a pro-Russian Socialist Party. This election has drawn regional attention, particularly as neighboring Georgia has recently witnessed its Moscow-leaning ruling party retaining power amid ongoing election disputes. Both Moldova and Georgia have experienced allegations of Russian interference in their elections, although Moscow has denied any involvement. Sandu has stated that her victory in the referendum was achieved just amid an unjust struggle, highlighting the ongoing tensions in the region.
Platformă pentru Federația Rusă de a prelua controlul asupra Republicii Moldova. Pe de altă parte, este un răspuns foarte clar și foarte tranșant pentru tot ce înseamnă integrarea europeană, având în vedere că referendumul privind integrarea europeană în primul tur cumva a trecut la limită, este nevoie de o reconfirmare a faptului că oamenii în Republica Moldova vor Uniunea Europeană și aleg un candidat care este cu adevărat pro-european. Mulți oameni se tem de război și văd într-un candidat care ar avea o relație bună cu Moscova o garanție că nu vom fi atacați și noi. Pe de altă parte, mulți înțeleg că aliații rușilor au întotdeauna de suferit, sunt sub sancțiuni internaționale și mai sunt ținuți într-o zonă gri în care nu se dezvoltă foarte bine, rămân săraci și rămân influențați de Federația Rusă.
And that's all at this hour. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Arvo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Likon Obanjo.